From the story, the alien queen was dying, until a human doctor risked everything to save her. Dr. Elias Monroe sat alone in the rusty med bay of his freighter, the Halifax Drift. Around him, old monitors flickered and soft beeping filled the silence. Once he had been one of Earth's best trauma surgeons. Now he was a ghost in space. 3 years ago, he lost a patient, a senator's daughter. The media destroyed him. Politics finished what guilt had started. With no license, no hospital, and no home, Elias ran to the stars. He treated miners with radiation burns, smugglers with plasma wounds, and pirates with cybernetic failures. It wasn't much, but it kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. Until today. A sudden alarm jolted him. The ship shuddered. Docking breach, the system warned. Elias grabbed his sidearm and moved toward the airlock. Pirates? Raiders? The docking bay opened, and 2 figures emerged. One was tall, wrapped in strange armor that shimmered like insect, chitin. The other was limp, carried in its arms. Elias's heart stopped. The limp figure wasn't human. It was alien. The taller one spoke through a translator clipped to its neck. Its voice was smooth, almost emotionless. You are Elias Monroe. Surgeon. Human. We require aid. Elias stared at the being in its arms. It was a female, barely conscious, her skin dark green with glowing lines pulsing under the surface. Her breathing was shallow. Her body twitched with spasms. What is she? Elias asked, lowering his gun. She is the Hive Queen of Virelia, the alien said. And she is dying. Elias stepped back. No. 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 I'm not touching that. The Queen of Virelia? She ordered orbital strikes on Earth colonies. She's a war criminal. She is our ruler. If she dies, the Hive dies with her. The link collapses. Elias hesitated. He knew what that meant. The Virelians were telepathically linked. Millions of minds tied to the Queen's consciousness. If she died, chaos would spread. Madness, civil war, genocide. I'm not qualified, Elias said. I'm a human trauma doctor, not an alien neurologist. There is no one else, the alien said quietly. Your kind was the only species to study neural fusion between biomechanical systems and carbon-based life. Your techniques are forbidden to us. The Queen groaned weakly, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment, Elias met her gaze. He expected hate. But what he saw startled him. Fear. Real, raw fear. She didn't want to die. Something inside Elias shifted. He was still a doctor. I need a full bioscan, he muttered. Get her into the med bay. Hours later, Elias stared at the data. The Queen's body was fighting itself. Her nervous system was infected by a kind of neural spore, like a fungus but laced with synthetic code. It had fused into her brainstem. Virelian immune systems couldn't recognize it. Her body was shutting down to protect the Hive from psychic backlash. She's not healing, Elias said aloud. She's suppressing her own immune response. Why? The bodyguard, who had remained silent, finally spoke. She wishes to die. Elias blinked. Why would she want that? The Hive has become fractured. She believes her time is over, that her death will allow a new ruler to rise. Elias shook his head. That's not how medicine works. She's still alive. That means there's still a chance. You would risk your life for her? The alien asked. She's a patient, Elias said. I don't have to like her to save her. The alien tilted its head. You are strange. Elias smirked. You have no idea. That night, Elias stood alone on the ship's observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly around him, silent and cold. He looked toward Virelian space, a forbidden region marked quarantine extreme risk on every star map. Going there meant suicide. But he had seen the Queen's eyes. She didn't want death. Not truly. Something deeper was at play. He opened a channel. Halifax Drift to Virelian escort. Course set for Hive Heart Prime. Prepare for hyperspace entry. The bodyguard responded, We are with you, Doctor. As the stars bent into streaks of light, Elias felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The Halifax drift came out of hyperspace in total silence. Before them, floating like a massive black pearl in space, was the Hive Heart, capital of the Varelian species. It looked alive. The outer shell pulsed slowly, like it was breathing. Giant insect-shaped ships buzzed around it like bees. Dr. Elias Munro stood at the ship's window, stunned. "It's not a city," he whispered. "It's a creature." "Yes," the Varelian bodyguard said beside him. "It lives, just like we do. And soon it may die." The Queen was still unconscious in the medical pod. Her life signs were weak, her mind barely holding on. Elias knew he was running out of time. Their ship was caught by invisible tendrils, some kind of living tractor beam, and pulled toward a docking point. The metal beneath them vibrated, like a heartbeat. The hive was alive in every sense of the word. The doors opened. Elias was met by a group of Varelian guards, all tall and insect-like, their armor fused to their skin. Their black eyes stared at him with cold judgment. "Do not try anything foolish," the lead one said. "We only let you live because our queen commands it." "Trust me," Elias replied. "If I was here for revenge, I wouldn't have brought a scalpel." They walked through long, glowing tunnels. The walls were soft and organic. Strange lights pulsed from within like fireflies under the skin. Elias felt dizzy. The air smelled sweet, too sweet, like overripe fruit and honey. "This place isn't made for humans," he said. "No," the bodyguard answered. "You are the first." Finally, they reached the Queen's chamber. It was massive. The walls were covered in vines of neural tissue, glowing softly. In the center lay the Queen, her body resting on a bed of biogel, cables plugged into her skull and spine. Elias moved forward. Machines scanned her. The neural spore had spread further. Her brain was becoming something else, half organic, half code. If it completed the change, she would not just die, she would become a virus, one that could destroy every Varelian mind connected to her. "She's losing her identity," Elias said. "Her mind is breaking apart. You must stop it," the prime speaker said. He was an old Varelian, his body smaller, his voice softer. "You are our last hope." "I can't just guess," Elias snapped. "I need to understand her. This isn't just a disease, it's a choice. Something inside her is giving up. If I don't know why, I can't fight it." "There is one way," the prime speaker said. "The neural communion." Elias frowned. "What's that?" "A mind link. Direct. You enter her consciousness. You see what she sees. Feel what she feels." Elias stared at him. "That sounds like suicide." "It is dangerous," the bodyguard admitted. "Your mind may not survive. You are soft." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," Elias muttered, but he knew he had no choice. "If she wants to die, I need to know why," he said. "Hook me in." They attached a neural crown to Elias's head. Cold wires wrapped around his skull. He lay beside the Queen, connected by a thread of glowing energy. He took a deep breath. "Ready?" the prime speaker asked. "No," Elias said honestly. "Do it anyway." In an instant, his world shattered. Elias was no longer in the hive. He stood in a strange dream world, half organic, half burning. The sky above was on fire. Screams echoed all around. A battlefield. Dead bodies everywhere. Human and Varelian. Blood soaked the ground. Then he saw her. The Queen stood alone, wearing black armor. She held the body of a young Varelian child. She was weeping. Elias stepped closer. "Why are you here?" "I see them," she said. Her voice was heavy. "Everyone I've killed. Everyone I've failed. This is your mind? This is my truth." Elias looked around. This was no memory. It was guilt, pure and raw. You tried to start a war you thought would end the cycle. But humanity didn't destroy you. "No," she whispered. "You offered peace." and that shamed you. I do not deserve to live. Elias walked up to her. I've made mistakes. I've taken lives by accident. I've failed too, but I kept going. Because someone, somewhere, still needed help. The Queen looked at him. I am not your enemy, he said. I am your doctor, her eyes filled with light. I don't want to die, she said finally, and the battlefield faded. Elias gasped as he woke. His body ached, his nose bled, but he was alive. He looked over. The Queen's vital signs had stabilized. She wants to live, Elias said, smiling. Then we fight to save her, the Prime Speaker replied. Dr. Elias Monroe stood in the Hive Heart surgical chamber, staring at the floating body of the Queen. Her long limbs twitched slightly, her eyelids fluttered. Life was still inside her, but barely. Now that he had entered her mind and seen the truth, he knew one thing for sure. She wanted to live, but her brain was damaged by the infection and by her own emotional collapse. And time was running out. She needs surgery, Elias told the Prime Speaker and the other Virelians around him. A full reconstruction of the central mind stem. I'll need access to her neural root. The Prime Speaker's eyes widened. That part of her brain is sacred. If you fail, her death will not just kill the hive, it will unleash madness. She already told me, Elias said firmly. She's ready to live again, but only if we give her the chance. There was silence. Virelians had never let a human touch a queen, much less cut into her brain. But this human had already done what no one else could. The Prime Speaker gave a single nod. Then do what must be done. The surgical chamber came to life. Organic walls shifted to reveal delicate instruments. A glowing table of soft gel lifted the Queen's body. The bioscanners activated. Elias wore a surgical suit adapted for alien biology. He looked like a strange creature himself, part human, part machine. He placed his gloved hands on the console. This will be the most difficult operation I've ever done, he whispered. As the machine arms moved into place, the Queen's body was opened. Softly, carefully. Virelian tissue was different from humans. Her neural root was shaped like a three-lobed flower, glowing with pulses of psychic light. The infection had wrapped itself around one lobe, choking it. The spore wasn't just a disease, it was alive, feeding on her pain. She's trying to fight it, Elias said aloud, but she's too weak. He took a breath, then began. For 6 hours, Elias worked. He used a fusion scalpel to separate the infected tissue. He injected stabilizing agents into her psychic lobes. He rewired memory threads using microfiber nanobots. Outside the chamber, hundreds of Virelians stood in silence. The entire hive could feel what was happening. Their Queen's life was their own. Every cut Elias made, every decision, sent a ripple through the minds of millions, but Elias kept his focus. Then, alarms. The Queen's pulse spiked. Her mind was reacting violently. She's crashing, Elias shouted. She's having a psychic seizure. A nearby drone shouted. The hive is going unstable. Drones are panicking. A civil split is forming. Elias realized something horrifying. Her mind wasn't reacting to pain. It was responding to a psychic attack. Someone was trying to kill her from the inside. The Prime Speaker rushed in. We are under siege. Rebels in the lower hive want her dead. They believe the hive must evolve without her. Elias turned toward him, furious. She's open, vulnerable. If they destabilize the hive's network now, it will kill her. He had one choice left. I need full control of the hive link, he said. Let me guide the drones. Let me stabilize the hive while I finish. You are human, a guard shouted. You cannot bear the weight of millions of minds. I don't need to carry it, Elias replied. Just hold it steady. The Prime Speaker hesitated. Then, slowly, he touched a glowing panel. Link. Opened. A rush of noise hit Elias's brain. Millions of thoughts, fear, confusion, anger, hope. His heart pounded, sweat dripped from his face, but he focused. Steady, he whispered. Focus on her voice, not fear, not hate. Through the chaos, he guided the hive's mental rhythm. Drones that were panicking began to calm. Workers returned to order. The queen's pulse began to slow. Her neural threads began to heal. Just a little more, Elias whispered. His hands moved quickly, making the final adjustments. One last cut, one last graft, then silence. The queen's brain glowed soft and blue. She was stable. A few minutes later, Elias collapsed onto the floor, exhausted. The suit beeped softly. His vitals were weak, but steady. He looked up at the queen. Her chest rose and fell with smooth breaths. "She's going to live," he said. The prime speaker stepped forward, his voice quiet. "You have done what none of us could. You saved our queen." Elias smiled weakly. "Yeah. Now someone get me a protein bar and 10 hours of sleep." The next day, Elias stood beside the queen again. Only this time, she was awake. Her eyes, deep and glowing, met his. For a moment, there was silence between them. Then she spoke. Not with words, but with a soft mental voice that only he could hear. "You gave me life when I had given up." "Why?" Elias replied out loud. "Because you needed saving, and I'm still a doctor even after everything." The queen slowly stood up, her strength returning. "You risked your mind, your life, your future. Not for glory, not for power." "No," Elias said. "For hope." A long silence passed between them. Then the queen raised one hand. "To all of Varelia, you are now kin mender," she declared. "No longer outsider, no longer enemy. You are part of our hive." Elias blinked. "That's a lot." The queen smiled. "You saved our mind. Now let us save yours." Dr. Elias Monroe had only been conscious for an hour before trouble returned. He was sitting in the hive heart's quiet garden, surrounded by tall, glowing trees and floating light orbs. For the first time in years, he felt peaceful. The surgery had been a success. The queen was alive. The hive was stable. But peace didn't last long. A Varelian drone rushed to him, wings humming nervously. "Kinmender," it said, using his new title. "The queen requests your presence, urgently." Elias stood quickly. His legs were still weak, but his mind was alert. "What happened?" The drone's mandibles twitched. "Security breach, internal." That was all Elias needed to hear. When Elias entered the queen's chamber, he saw her standing tall, her skin glowing faintly with green light. Her body had fully recovered, but her eyes showed worry. Next to her stood her loyal bodyguard, the same one who had brought her to Elias's ship days ago. And across the room, restrained in a glowing cage of energy, was another high-ranking Varelian. His armor was black and sharp-edged. "He calls himself Commander Zeril," the queen said, "leader of the rebel hive cells." Elias narrowed his eyes. "The one who tried to crash your mind during surgery?" "Yes," the queen confirmed. "And he has something to say." "To you?" Elias stepped forward. "To me?" Zerel looked up, his dark eyes locked onto the human. "Strange," he hissed. "You look like a weak creature, yet you held the hive in balance. You touched her mind. That should be impossible." "I'm full of surprises," Elias said dryly. "What do you want?" "You've ruined everything," Zeril spat. "She was supposed to die. The hive was ready to evolve. Without her control, without emotion, without weakness." The queen stepped forward, voice firm. "You call life a weakness, but the hive is not a machine. It feels. That is our strength." "You changed," Zerel snarled. "The moment that human touched your mind, you stopped being our queen." "And yet I live," she replied. Elias leaned in. "What now?" "You lost. She's healing. The hive is stable." Zeril smiled in a strange, cold way. "Not for long." And then he bit something under his jaw. The room shook. A sudden blast rocked the outer hive. Sirens howled. The lights flickered red. He had a spore bomb hidden in his body, the bodyguard shouted. Multiple hive sectors compromised. Elias looked at the queen. He planted infections, like the one you had. She nodded grimly. Yes. He wanted to force a hive-wide collapse. If he could not kill me, he would poison the minds I protect. Elias's voice was steady. Then I need access to the hive net again. I need to stop this spread before it becomes another infection. It's too dangerous, the queen said. You nearly died last time. I'm not afraid, Elias said. I've already been inside your mind. Now let me help protect all of it. She stared at him. Then she placed her glowing hand on his head. You are one of us now, she said softly. May the hive guide your mind. Moments later, Elias was connected again, mentally plugged into the hive net. But this time, it was chaos. He floated through a mental landscape made of sound, light, and thought. Varelian minds screamed around him. Confusion, panic, pain. The spores were attacking like digital lightning, infecting whole sections of the hive's memory system. They're not just viruses, Elias whispered. They're commands. From deep inside the network, he saw Zeryl's plan. Hidden commands had been placed inside the hive years ago, fail-safes that would trigger if the queen ever showed emotional weakness. Like trusting a human, Elias moved fast. He used what little knowledge he had of biodigital code to shut down clusters of infected thought. He rerouted the hive's neural pathways like a surgeon rerouting blood flow. But there were too many attacks, too many minds, too much fear. I can't hold it alone, he shouted. Then he heard her voice, soft, clear, and strong. You are not alone. The queen had joined him, not just mentally, but fully. Her consciousness flowed beside him, her will pushed against the chaos like a tidal wave of light, and behind her came millions of voices, Varelians choosing unity, choosing peace. Together they fought the infection, thought by thought, mind by mind. Elias felt his mind burning. The strain was incredible. But he kept going. This was what it meant to save a life. Not just the queen's, but an entire species. Finally, silence. The infection was gone. The hive net was quiet again. Elias opened his eyes, blinking in the queen's chamber. He was back. His nose bled again and his vision blurred, but he smiled. We did it, he whispered. The queen knelt beside him. You held our world together. You stood where even our strongest fell. Elias chuckled weakly. Told you I'm full of surprises. The next day, Varelia declared a new era. The queen survived not just death, but betrayal. Her mind had returned stronger. Her vision was clear, and at her side stood a human doctor in worn clothes, still tired, still injured, but respected. They called him Kinmender, hive healer, and the man who saved the mind of a nation. Elias didn't care about titles. He only cared that they were alive. 1 week had passed since the hive war ended. The skies above the Varelian homeworld were calm. No alarms. No more screams in the hive net. No more infections spreading like fire through minds. Peace had returned. Dr. Elias Monroe stood on a high platform overlooking the living city. The hive heart pulsed gently beneath his feet. Lights moved like soft rivers through its walls. It felt alive, safe. But Elias knew his time here was ending. He turned as the queen arrived. She walked beside her royal guard, her tall form graceful and strong. Her eyes, once tired and dark, were now glowing with steady light. You look different, Elias said with a small smile. She tilted her head. I feel different. I guess almost dying can change a person. The queen walked closer and looked at him carefully. And you, Elias, what has changed in you? He looked down at his hands, still slightly shaking from the mental strain of hive net repair. His body hadn't fully recovered. But his spirit? I didn't come here expecting to be a hero, he said. I only wanted to help someone in pain. But I learned something big. that even enemies can become something else. If we listen, if we try. The queen was silent for a moment. Then she reached into her robe and pulled out a small, living crystal. It pulsed with violet light and seemed to hum softly. "This," she said, "is a gift." Elias raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "It is called a core memory. It holds part of my mind, my thoughts, emotions, memories. It is living knowledge. I give it to you." He hesitated. "Why me?" "Because you saved not just my life," she said. "You saved our soul. You showed us what we forgot. Compassion." She held out the crystal. Elias slowly took it. As his fingers touched it, a warm feeling rushed through him, like light, like understanding. It was not just data, it was connection, the queen's trust made real. "Thank you," he said softly. "There is more," the queen added. "The hive has voted. We will not remain hidden anymore. We will speak to humans, share what we know and learn what we do not." Elias was stunned. "You mean open contact?" "Yes," she said, "and you will be our voice." He blinked. "Me? I'm just a doctor." "You are more," she said firmly. "You are proof that peace is possible." Later that day, Elias stood before the largest Varelian gathering in history. Thousands of citizens filled the glowing plaza. High above, even the sky was filled with silent watchers, Varelians connected through HiveNet, listening with shared attention. And there stood Elias Monroe, a human in a clean white coat, holding the Queen's core memory. He took a breath. Then he began. "I was not born on this world," he said. "I came here by accident, brought by pain, and found something unexpected, hope." He told them the full story, how the Queen had fallen ill, how he entered her mind, how she chose to live, how the hive chose peace over war. He didn't speak as a leader. He spoke as a healer, as someone who had seen suffering and refused to walk away. When he finished, there was no applause. Instead, there was connection. Millions of Varelian minds shared his words, felt them, held them. The hive net pulsed with new energy. Peace had begun. 3 days later, Elias stood at the edge of a Varelian launch port. His ship, the Halifax Drift, was ready. The Queen stood beside him one last time. "You are returning to Earth," she said. "For now," Elias nodded. "There's work to do. I have to convince the humans that you're not monsters, that you're not our enemies." "They will fear us," she said. "Yes. At first. But maybe. They'll listen. Like I did." The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "Wherever you go, Elias Monroe, you are not alone. You carry part of us, and we, part of you." He smiled. "That might be the weirdest, nicest thing anyone's ever said to me." She stepped back. Elias climbed into the ship. As the engines powered up, he looked down at the Queen through the window. She stood tall, wings slightly spread, surrounded by her people. Then the ship lifted, and Elias Monroe, once an ordinary doctor, now the kin-mender of Varelia, left the hive heart behind, with a mission greater than medicine. 6 months later, Earth, a small hospital in Geneva, buzzed with news. A new ambassador had arrived, not in a suit, not in a military uniform, but in a lab coat. Dr. Elias Monroe stepped onto the Earth diplomacy floor holding the violet core memory in one hand, and a datapad of peace documents in the other. Behind him, stepping out of a Varelian diplomatic ship, was the Queen herself. Humans gasped, cameras flashed, but no one moved to attack, because standing beside the insectoid Queen was a human, a doctor, a man who had once saved a dying enemy and taught 2 worlds what healing truly meant.